Hey y'all, hi. Today we're talking about possibly my favorite topic of all time, other than poetry, fall fashion. I have prepared for you a bunch of gorgeous imagery of fall outfits, and we're just going to go through them and talk about them, why I like them, and more importantly, what we can learn from them, like what we can take from them and apply to the clothes that we already have in our own wardrobes. I mean, I am wearing a tank top. It's still hot, but it's about to be fall. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. I'll also link my book down below. Don't forget to click through and check it out if you have never done that. Outfit number 1. Look at this. We're starting with something pretty simple. This is transitional weather, right? No overcoat, no scarf. It's at a lovely mid formality level. So I think what a lot of people are wearing day in and day out. And the concept, like what it is that's being executed, I really love because I think that this is something that most of us could do without trying too hard and without buying anything. So we have a monochromatic outfit that's tone on tone. It's green, but it's 2 shades of green. So there's high visual impact, like high fashion impact, not high fashion impact, but a high level of fashion impact, because it's a strong choice to wear a green shirt with green pants, but not quite as strong or labored a choice as it would be to wear a top and pants that are exactly the same shade of green. So it's this kind of laid back execution of monochromatic dressing. Almost everyone has pants or a bottom half in their wardrobe that is a color and a top that is a different shade of that same color. If you have that, you can do this. But the thing that elevates it, because there are a lot of images out there of people wearing fall outfits that fit that definition, the thing that really pushes it for me is that plus the loafers with socks, and the fact that the socks are just like white socks. It's a little bit dorky and a little bit edgy at the same time. I feel like the loafers with socks, with the rolled up cuffs of the pants, informs us even more aggressively if we didn't already suspect that the tone-on-tone monochromatic choice is very intentional, that that's like a tasteful, selected, almost cheeky choice. So those are the things that I like about this. I just feel like the balance of intentionality and sort of that slightly dorky, gritty quality that we see a lot in Gen Z fashion, I feel. Actually, that's not necessarily how it's being mobilized here, but I feel like that's what has made it so popular. It's like Gen Z is what's made that quality so popular. The balance between that and just kind of effortlessness and aesthetic communication that's intentional is really special. But the takeaways from this can be more concrete. You can just imitate it, right? Pants and a shirt that are the same color but different shades, and then loafers or slides or maybe even sneakers if that's what you usually wear, low boots, something that shows a sock, or if you don't have any shoes that are this low, you could roll your pants up even further to show some sock. And I can imagine like 1,000 different iterations of this with different people's clothing, different people's body types, different people's wardrobes and tastes, and they will all carry that same je ne sais quoi that is making this work. So this is like such a beautiful way to kick off the video, I feel, because it's everything. So much is being done, and yet it is so casual, so effortless, and so easy to imitate. All right, moving right along at a fast clip because I have a lot of images and I don't want this video to be too long. I am capable of doing this for a full 24 hours, but I don't think anybody wants to tune in for that. Okay, can you even with this? This reminds me, I source a lot of my images on Pinterest, and they often have no information. Sometimes there is information, and if I really dig, I can figure out who it is in the image and find their Instagram and stuff, and sometimes I can't. What I'm going to do is, in the description box of this video, I will link every single image on Pinterest. So you can click through to the Pinterest image and find whatever information is available, you can find it. And I will also make public the Pinterest board that I use to collect all of these images, and I'll link it as well. So this outfit, why do I like it, first of all? I think I have a really specific reason. I mean, it's beautiful, it's stunning, but I also am really drawn to this because I don't think that I would do this instinctively. And that's because there's so much contrast. It's an about face from the green on green that we just looked at. There's gray, brown, what I believe is butter yellow, and then a shade of bluish gray that I think is a denim for the pants. The brown bag goes with the brown cardigan, but they have like slightly different undertones, those browns. So it feels like more variety and more of a mix of cool and warm tones than I would usually put in an outfit instinctively on my own. And yet it's stunning, and I would totally wear this. Now that I've seen it, I would totally wear it, and that intrigues me. When I see something that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought to do that, it goes against some of my instincts, but I see it and I love it and I would wear it, I always take note. So potentially that's one of the takeaways here. Mixing cool and warm light neutrals can really work. But I actually think that the more applicable takeaway is about these loose and sort of semi-chaotic layers that are working together in a way that doesn't end up feeling chaotic at all. Because what is she actually doing, right? She's actually wearing an open trench coat. So a coat that's only buttoned at the neck and then is open from the neck down, which is a really interesting choice, over a cardigan that also appears to be buttoned kind of at the top and then open underneath it, over a button-down shirt. It looks like a natural choice, but that is really different from the way that most people style coats, cardigans, and button-down shirts. And that's something that we can all try. But then all of that loose layers that kind of open towards the bottom, all of that over wide leg pants, which also are slimmer at the top and then kind of open towards the bottom. So there's all of this loosening and opening down towards the ground of the layers of this outfit. And if you deploy that with your own wardrobe, with your own clothes, it might end up looking really different than this, but it might also end up being really different than what you usually wear and really exciting. And then I think another really clean, clear potential takeaway from this is the tie-in of the bag to the cardigan. It's beautiful to have one color that's kind of layered underneath and peeking out of the garments that you're wearing and have that color match one of your accessories. Okay, I'm really getting warmed up. I feel like we're really getting going. 2 down, like 20 more images to go. So strap in. And I feel like this is a good time to talk about today's video sponsor. An absolute go-to for fall fashion for me over the past few years, and that is Quince. I, as many of you know, am a knitwear junkie, and my Quince sweaters are some of my most worn fall and winter pieces, and the same is true of my husband. So Quince has a factory direct model that reduces margins and overhead costs and keeps the prices remarkably low, which is particularly meaningful. Like the price difference is particularly meaningful when it comes to high value goods like 14 karat gold jewelry, lab-grown diamond jewelry, silk clothing, linen bedding, and knitwear that is made from 100% natural materials like wool. I'm especially a fan of the chunky cotton fisherman knit. In person, it looks and feels like it could have cost $300, but I think it's like $50 at Quince, $49. I've washed it a bunch and it comes out of the wash perfectly every time. Not the dryer though. Wash cold, lay flat to dry, and it comes out perfectly every time. Quince is also a good bet for affordable and impactful outerwear. I cannot wait for it to be cold enough for me to wear my leather puffer. It's probably going to be a month before I can wear it, but I think about it at least once a day. And one more thing about Quince before we get back to the video, I have to tell you about the rugs. I know this video is about fashion, but look at this rug. Quince has carried homewares for a while. They have beautiful kitchen knives. They are always my go-to for like bath towels, bedding, especially linen bedding. And now, as of pretty recently, they have a curated selection of rugs that has impressed me so much. You may have already seen the runner in our upstairs hallway, perfect, low profile, 100% wool rug. And now we finally have a dining room rug, my dream. It has taken me over a year to find the right one. I was looking for a rug that gave the impression of being light in color to help balance the moodiness of our dining room, but that was actually variegated enough to not show stains easily. And I also wanted it to feel soft and luxe underfoot, but have a low profile that's easy to clean. Hard to find. But when I saw Quince's new rugs for fall, this was one of them. It's perfect. I'm so happy with it. It's also hand knotted and it's 100% wool. So yes, thank you to Quince for working with me on this video. It is always such a pleasure to get to share my real appreciation for this brand. I've worked with them a bit, but I've also made a lot of purchases of my own with my own budget over the years from Quince, and my respect for what they offer only grows with time. Okay, let's talk about this, not just a spectacular fall outfit, but also a spectacular photograph. You can see the full photograph all the way on the left, the yellow sunflower in the back, and then the yellow stripes on the road, and the yellow sweater around the shoulders. It's amazing. But this outfit would be great in any context. What do I like about it? So one of the things I've talked about recently is this idea of having like a star piece or a focal point, the foreground and the background of outfits. I'll link the video in which I talked about that. Clearly, because of the color, the yellow sweater is in the foreground of this outfit. It is really announcing itself. Without it, she'd still look great, but it wouldn't be in this video, you know? But the thing that's interesting is to have that piece, that foreground piece, thrown on top of an already complete outfit in this kind of casual, cheeky way. I really like that. I've never worn a sweater knotted around my shoulders, almost like a scarf, on top of an overcoat. I've never done that. I've seen a bunch of images lately of people doing that. I think from this year, like pretty recently, fashion people doing this. So that intrigues me. I also like the fact that the length of the dress and the length of the coat are the same. And so the entire outfit, the drapery of it kind of ends below the knee. And then the ankles and feet are also covered in a dark color, like in black. So like there's no skin. That's what I like. There's a dramatic amount of coverage of skin on the body in this outfit, all in these dark tones of like navy and black. And the relationship between the hem and the shoe, the flat shoe, the school shoe, as we talked about recently in like the runway fashion response video, which I will also link. The school shoe, it's a little bit awkward, but it also makes a person spry, like easy to walk, practical. There's just something about the stockings, the shoe, the hemline, and then this splashy yellow sweater. It's both subtle and unsubtle what it is that makes it work, and I really like that. So what can we learn? What can we take away? We can try putting our sweaters over our overcoats, wearing sweaters as scarves. We can try that. You can try doing that if you want to add some color to your outfit and you're wearing all black or all navy. We could try wearing stockings with loafers like this, flat shoes with dresses or with otherwise draped, sort of oversized outfits. That's something that I feel like I would be reluctant to do. I worry that it would kind of make a girl out of me, but this makes me want to try it. And then, if you really zoom out, a bunch of very dark neutrals with a single bright yellow sweater is going to have impact no matter how you wear it. So here's another example of the sweater worn as a scarf over top of a coat. And I feel like it's even more scarf-like in this case because the knot is closer to the neck. It's interesting. It's over a trench coat in this case. So it almost feels like the sweater worn as a scarf is more believable as an element of warmth. Whereas in the picture with the sunflowers, it really seems like that yellow sweater is just there to add color. This picture on the right of the woman walking across the street, even though you can see in the background that the sign says don't walk, which I think it's really great. There are some other notable qualities of this outfit. One is that it feels pretty thrown together in many ways, like a lot of, pretty casual, layered, a wrinkly trench on top of just, you can't see the clothes underneath, but it just sort of seems like she could have just put it on to go to the grocery store, except for the sweater tied around as a scarf and then the bag and shoes matching in this kind of pale camel tone. This is an example, I feel, of how accessorizing can help elevate an outfit, which is something we'll be talking about throughout. And I've seen this a little bit, this matching camel colored or pale brown shoes and bag. I've seen it here and there, and I have another example to show you. This gorgeous outfit. This is one of the ones I'm really into, especially the pants, maybe mostly because of the pants. Here we have unusual, loose, textural gray clothing, all kind of layered on top of itself. The blazer over these pants. The pants look like they have a bit of a flip, a bit of a color flip, like an undertone that's a sheen. That is a warm, light, kind of orangey brown. That is the same color as the shoes in the bag. It's extremely cohesive while also not feeling too labored. And part of why it doesn't feel too labored, I feel, is just the overall looseness of it. It's sort of like loose on loose. The blazer isn't that loose. The blazer isn't oversized, but the very nature of it as sort of a layering jacket has an element of looseness, and it's quite long on her. So both of these outfits have that matching kind of orangey brown shoe and bag pulling together and sharpening an otherwise quite sort of loose, effortless silhouette. In this case, the woman with the blazer and the wide leg pants, the overall outfit is a little bit sharper, a little bit more formal, but there are so many ways in which this suiting could be more effortful. Like if it was more tailored and the whole outfit would kind of seize up and be just like a little bit tighter feeling. But the balance between the looseness and then the relative formality of the matching bag and shoes, I think is what I'm responding to in both of these cases. What can we take away from this? Massive, oversized, loose soft suiting pants with a fairly fitted blazer is just gorgeous. I mean, that to me is like actually the main takeaway from this, even though I brought this in as a reference for the matching shoes and bag. To me, it's really all about the way that the pants are worn and the way that the pants are styled. I really, really love that. Okay, let's talk about a little pop of very bright cherry red. So these two images have not only that in common, but I kind of want to talk about each one of them individually as well, because they are two separate outfits and they each have a bunch of things that are really special going for them. So first, the one on the left. This is another case of like layers on top of layers on top of layers, just like the image with the jacket that was buttoned at the neck and then open, and the cardigan that was buttoned and then open. And this is also a case of a loafer or a school shoe with a sock that bridges the gap between the shoe and the pants so that there's no skin showing between the shoe and the pants, which we've seen a couple of times and probably will see again. So those are both things that I'm drawn to, and those are both things that we can take away. Just to put kind of a fine point on it, this image on the left, we're seeing a button-down shirt that's buttoned all the way up to the neck. Every button is buttoned. So it's a little bit loose, but it's not open, right? That's like the base layer. And then a denim jacket or denim blazer of some kind layered on top of that, and then a loose trench layered on top of that. So once again, that's something that you could try. It's essentially a jacket within a jacket within a jacket. It looks simple when you look at it, but if you really unpack the decisions that have been made, there are some unusual takeaways. And then we have the school shoe with the sock with the rolled up cuff. But in this case, the sock is bright red. And imagine how different this outfit would look if it was white or light brown or something. A bright red sock will sharpen even the most mundane of outfits. And what I will say about that is if you have some interesting socks that you wear from time to time, interesting colors, but they only show when you sit down and cross your legs, and then the pant leg rides up a little bit and the color peeps out, consider rolling up your pant legs so that they show even when you're standing. That is a way to sort of tweak what you already wear to make it a little bit fresher. So the image on the right also features a button down, a loose button down over trousers that have space at the bottom of them, like a couple of inches between the trouser hem and the shoe. And then also there is a bright red accent. In this case, it's on the shoe and on the socks. The accent of this entire outfit is like the red and white shoe and sock look. It's simpler. What's going on is simpler, but I do want to point out that these pants are track pants. So we also have kind of a mixing of formality levels here. You can just see it on her knee. If you can see the athletic stripes of the track pants wrapping around the knee that's elevated. The button down we tend to think of as kind of a higher formality level piece. The track pants are like a lower formality level piece. Also, the shoes sort of higher formality. The socks are kind of lower, more athletic. In a way, this is like the riskiest outfit we've seen so far for me. I feel like this mixing of athletic with button down, like that's very uncomfortable to me. This kind of makes me want to try it because she's definitely pulling it off. And I feel like that could be a takeaway for us. If it's done like this, I feel like it works, if it's worn casually. But that's a challenge. I feel like that's something that's pretty difficult to do. And then the addition of the pop of red on top of all of that, it's pretty intense. I just had to include this next one because it's so lovely, so simple. And once again, I think that this is something that a lot of us might be able to do with stuff that we already own. When you're getting out your winter clothes, do you have this already? A dress that's all one color, that's either black or some other neutral, like a dark neutral that you like to wear, and a really soft chunky cardigan or a sweater, it doesn't even need to be a cardigan, and then some boots that are essentially the same color as that cardigan. This is so lovely, so easy, effortless to wear, effortless to put together from things you might already own. And it's just a reminder that it doesn't have to be so hard, and that especially with, like the bold choice of the simplicity of it. And the boots are also pretty elevating, this silhouette of boot. The cardigan is also quite impactful, really soft and chunky. It just is like bold, soft swaths of fabric and color. And that's one of the things that I feel like we get to do in the fall in a way that we don't get to do at any other time of year. It's done so well here, and it gets me excited about this season. And then here's another example. I really like this image of an oversized kind of funnel neck sweater over a skirt or a dress that is a maxi. This is also a way you can bring your summer clothes into winter. If you have a maxi dress that you've been wearing a lot in the summer, especially if it's plain black, navy blue, even white or cream, or even a print printed garment wouldn't look exactly like these two inspiration images, but it would totally work. It's a way to wear clothes that you've kind of been conceiving of as summer clothes that you're going to have to put away in the winter. Just layer a big heavy sweater over them. So elegant. And I don't know, I also like this silver earring worn on top of the funnel neck in this image with the blue sweater. We saw that before. The image with the yellow sweater wrapped around the shoulders. I didn't mention it when we were looking at that picture, but she was wearing big, chunky silver earrings that almost felt like they could have been evening wear. They almost felt a little bit out of place, like a little bit formal for day. That was another thing that appealed to me about that image. And it appeals to me about this image too, these big, chunky silver hoops worn on top of a chunky sweater over a maxi skirt, everything sort of just layered and textured. And it balances casual daytime with a kind of artistic minimalism in dressing that I really like. I think both of these images do that. And another example of the loose open layers, but executed really differently. So I kept the image of the outfit with the blue sweater up because silhouette-wise, you can see that these two things have a lot in common. So this might help you see that even if you don't have a big, beautiful, high-necked wool sweater like this blue sweater, you can still try to execute the silhouette with what you have. You can still kind of work in this realm if you have an oversized plaid shirt. And if you have kind of a cropped loose jacket and you layer those things on top of each other, you'll be getting at something similar. So this outfit on the left here that layer, I'm like so into this. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't think I would wear this. I don't really wear any of these colors. And it's not like I want to introduce them. I might wear it if it was different colors. You know, I might wear an outfit that looked exactly like this, but in different colors, different prints, etc. In this image for this person, I do really love the colors and the way that it is coming together. And it's very fall. And it's just, I don't know, I was really tickled when I came across this one. I think one of the reasons I like this so much too is that I would usually not think to layer a cropped jacket over a shirt that's much longer than the hem of the jacket. I usually wouldn't do that. I would feel like, oh, it's awkward. The hem of the jacket needs to be like longer than the top of what I'm wearing. And yet it's done to such gorgeous effect here. It's so clearly intentional and it's working so incredibly well. That can definitely be a takeaway for us. I also feel like this, it's not a 3-bean salad, which is one of my recent fashion videos. I talked about outfits that only have 3 elements. This is not a 3-bean salad because clearly there are shoes under there somewhere. So there's at least a 4th element, but it is sort of a 1, 2, 3 punch. There's like the jacket, the hem of the shirt, and then the pants, I think is what those are. And compositionally, artistically, it's very pleasing. It's actually very simplified. You know, if there was too much else going on, if there was a scarf or a bag in this image, or if you could see the shoes, it would take away from how well these 3 major elements are balancing each other. So that can kind of be a takeaway too about sort of simplifying, zooming out and trying to get a sense of the impact of the discrete elements of your outfit from a distance. So we're continuing to reference the blue sweater over the blue maxi skirt. I had to keep it up on the screen to segue into this, another one of what might be my favorite outfits. Can you even with how stunning this is? What do I like about it? Okay. Okay, monochromatic. First of all, I love a monochromatic outfit, but there's something about it that makes it edgier, riskier, and I mean artistically, sort of visually riskier, and because of that, fresher than anything I would come up with on my own. And that is the very light blue shirt peeking out of the bottom of the sweater. So once again, I think my instinct would usually be like, oh no, I can't have this shirt coming out the bottom of the sweater. It's like too many layers. It looks awkward, right? And I think also I would think, oh, this light blue, it's also blue, but it's really a different blue. It's like too different of a blue. So it's kind of disrupting the monochromatic vibe. But can you imagine how much more basic this would feel if that light blue shirt wasn't there, peeking out underneath the sweater and also around the collar a little bit and just making it all feel a little bit more lived in, a little bit less labored. It is that light blue shirt that kind of makes it so great. Of course, the hat, incredible. A warm hat on a day when you're not wearing a jacket, like it's cold enough that you need a sweater and maybe a tiny bit colder than that, but you can get away with just a hat and not a jacket. I love that. That's totally a takeaway for all of us from this. Wearing your hat just with, it's not as purely only outerwear to add another layer of warmth when you're all bundled up, but just like wearing a hat because it looks amazing. And having the hat be the same color as the rest of your outfit, but a different shade, a brighter shade, it just looks so good. I really love this outfit. And another example of many of these same things, right? The hat, instead of a coat, essentially, the hat being like an intense version of the color that you're wearing on your body, which is such a great choice. Like if you really love blue, but a super intense cobalt blue, like Eve Clen blue, just blazing, blow you out of the water blue, if that's too intense of a color for you to buy a sweater or a coat in that color or pants in that color because it just feels like it's going to be too much to have something in heavy rotation in your wardrobe in that color, a hat is the perfect way to wear that color, to wear this intense blue. And the same is true of like a really bright and intense cherry red. Socks are a really amazing way to wear a super bright red or a really bright intense green. A hat is a really great way to wear this color if you don't want to wear it somewhere else on your body. I love though that the hat is a super intense version of the same color that the pants are in, right? So this person clearly has red in their palette, and then that palette is just intensified to its most extreme version of the color in the hat. You can see it elsewhere in the pants. I think this is stunning. And this is also something you can try without having to buy anything too expensive. You know, it's like if you're starting to get out your fall clothes and you see some colors that you like and you just want to add something to make your outfits kind of sing and pop, you just get a hat. You know what I mean? Like you just get a hat in a really intense color and light everything on fire. You know, you've been seeing this fly plaguing me. I'm trying to be professional and just like the show must go on and not mention it, but I feel like the fly is like my co-star in this video. Okay, we're really getting into some good stuff here. I think it's obvious where we're going. A hat is a great way to wear this shade of red. A sweater, a single sweater. I have in my wardrobe a single sweater in this shade of red. And some days I feel like it's too much. And on the days that I do wear it, I really feel myself. You already know that I'm obsessed with this image all the way on the left here. This is Posh Heat, who is a fashion influencer. And of course, I'll link Posh Heat. I'm going to try to link as many people as I can. I show this image a lot. I've shown it recently to talk about outfit composition, neutrals, deep neutrals, and then like the one pop of incredibly brilliant red. This image in the middle here, it's also clearly working, right? I feel like this would work on anyone. Like this would work on anyone. It's so good. And I feel like I've lost the plot a little bit with, I'm supposed to be saying what I like about each image and then saying what our takeaways can be. What I like about this is that it is both intentional and effortless at the same time. Because wearing this really bright red and making sure that you set it off against a backdrop of really neutral other colors for all of the rest of what you're wearing is so intentionally artistic and is going to have that impact no matter what your context is and no matter who you are, no matter which garments you use to deploy it, it's always going to have that intentional artistic touch. You know, it's like something you really did when you put this together. But what could be easier than just putting on a sweater, a pair of pants, and a coat? Like that's so effortless. That's how everybody dresses in the winter. You know, you just like put on a sweater, pants, and coat. And so there's nothing labored about it or effortful feeling about it. And so to achieve those two things at the same time, I think that's aspirational. And I really like how it's done here. I think the takeaway from this is more specific. The takeaway is like a really, really bright colored sweater with all neutrals elsewhere is a way to achieve the thing that I was just talking about. Here's an example with magenta instead of red. So you can kind of see the way that it would look with a different color. It doesn't necessarily need to be this bright red. All of these images, but especially this one on the right, I like to think about what it would be like if that sweater was not magenta. And I think the hat in this case, that beret is also really adding a fashion edge. So just imagine if the sweater was gray and there was no beret in this image. And for the other two images, just imagine that sweater's brown or black instead of being red. If you do that thought exercise, if you imagine it, you can immediately see how much work the bright color of the sweater is doing, how total the difference is just because of that one singular choice. And I really like that about these images because again, it's so effortless. It's just like this one brightly colored garment peeking out from underneath all of these much more casual choices. Now, if you have a lot of color in your wardrobe, if you have a lot of garments in bright colors, it's interesting. In order to do this, in order to try this, you might have to work to tone down the rest of what you're wearing. Because if someone in one of these images was also wearing bright red socks or even a bright red hat, or like if the person wearing the magenta shirt, the magenta sweater was wearing bright red socks, it would really change the situation. It wouldn't have that kind of ease. It wouldn't look bad, but it just wouldn't have that kind of ease. One takeaway from this could be try creating a baseline of neutrality in order to wear one really strong color. If all of your wardrobe is neutral, if you don't usually wear color, if you're afraid, then the takeaway for you could be buy a bright red sweater and just see how it goes. Just see how it goes. So with this image on the right, the green jacket with the magenta shirt, we are moving into another category of images that I collected, which it's this, what they call a color story that I saw coming up in a bunch of places when I was sourcing images. And I'm drawn to it because it's not something I've ever done or would ever do. Purple and green reminds me of like Goosebumps. If you're as old as I am, Goosebumps by R.L. Stine. If you were like a kid in the 90s reading books, you probably came across them. They were these like ghost story books for kids. So I've always associated purple and green with Goosebumps and with the 90s kind of, and with this sort of childhood branding, I guess, even beyond just those books. So it really gets in amongst me to see it done in a way that I respond to emotionally and artistically as an adult in a positive way. Like when all three of these images, I see this and I'm like, wow, this is so skillfully done. It's so attractive. In all three of these cases, we've got green and purple. And the magenta shirt is like a shade potentially of purple, but especially in the other two cases, green and purple. But the fabrics are all very soft and elevated. Like these look like wool, merino, cashmere, soft overcoat, soft scarf, soft sweater. And that pulls us squarely out of the realm of Goosebumps, right? And into this place of like laid back, but not even humorous, but like full of character. The word I want is characterful. I mean, tasteful, maybe slightly eccentric. It's just, there's artistry, right? There's a choice to putting a purple scarf with a green sweater like this. And all of that compels me about these images. So what can our direct takeaways be? I feel like putting strong colors together is really effective when all of the fabrics are soft. When you're using like soft suiting, draped fabrics, knitted fabrics, knits, cushy, squishy things, and it all feels quite refined. One way to introduce an element of humor and kind of fun into that is to make those garments softly color blocked when you're choosing what you're going to put together or when you're choosing what you're going to buy, like for a scarf or something, instead of keeping it all super neutral. But another way to look at it is that if you want to wear colors like this together, a way of keeping it elevated is to make sure that the fabrics are all soft. I hope that they made sense what I was just saying. Here's another example of purple and green deployed beautifully. This image all the way on the right, a couple things we've already talked about, right? Using the hat as an accent color, a color that you don't usually wear that feels like a bit much. Just get it in a hat and you can really go the distance. Like this is amazing. Same with the coat. The coat is green, the hat is purple, and that is really creating the color story and causing this to be a version of the color story that we've been examining. But there's another thing that I want to point out about this image in particular. This is probably also one of my favorite ones that we've looked at today. This is so fashion. Right? That's so intense. The whole thing is so intense. The skirt underneath the blazer. It looks like there's some sort of belt bag going on. We might even be seeing skin under there. Might be like a crop top in there, a silk scarf knotted around the neck, and then this parka on top, and then this chunky hat. The parka being green, the hat being purple. Like it's so layered and multifaceted and bold in a way. But each element is something pretty normal, right? Like a maxi skirt you might already have. A blazer you might already have. A silk scarf you might already have. You might not usually wear it like this. You might not wear your silk scarf knotted around your neck in this context. A parka you might already have. A hat you might already have. And just putting them all together like this in this really, really layered, bold way that's unexpected. And then maybe getting a hat that's in a super bright color instead of the gray one that you wore last year. It would be so easy to pull this or something like it or something adjacent to it out of your closet and and just try it on and see how it works for you. And I really, really love that. I really respond to this image because of that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about formality levels, like mixing formality levels, because I came across these two images when I was searching. One is Abisola Omole. You knew she was going to be like fully obsessed with everything that she wears. And I also wanted to include her because I found myself gravitating to a bunch of more casual images. I'm feeling really affected right now by the veer towards like barn jacket dressing and just slightly less polished outfit composition and then garments, individual garments. I'm feeling kind of affected by that. I myself personally am getting a little bit tired of the like extremely high polish, sort of what I've seen called like rich girl beige dressing. As much as I love all beige and as much as I love neutrals and cream and personally wear a lot of that stuff, I've been hungering for just something a little bit edgier and like dressed down. And so I think that hunger has informed my selection today of these outfits. And I wanted to include at least one that has a little bit more formality. And so we're seeing that here in Abisola's outfit. But that's not the only reason that I used this image, because as I was going through and saving images, I was also thinking about fall as an opportunity for layering, right? You know, it is the season when we start to be able to put clothes on top of clothes on top of clothes. And we have seen that reflected in a lot of the images we've looked at so far. One of the interesting things you can do with layering is that it makes it easier to mix formality levels. I've talked about that a lot recently, kind of trying to push the envelope of your own instinct and your own outfits. So these are two opposite examples of how you can do that. So in Abisola's outfit, it's a pretty high formality level, pretty polished, monochromatic gray, which is so demure, right? Really, really lovely. Monochromatic gray, a beautiful pencil skirt, shoes that they are kind of the school shoe of the season, right? A little bit chunky, but still not informal, right? Those shoes are not informal. And the bag is also kind of like a school bag vibe, but not informal, right? I would say the shoes, the bag, and the skirt and top, that's pretty elevated overall. It's pretty polished. But the jacket on top, although it's very lovely, is a little bit less formal. Like this, imagine if this jacket was like a blazer, which is so easily what one might have put with this outfit. A blazer or a more formal overcoat, like a pea coat, a trench, anything. If you think about the other coat options or jacket options that one could have put with this outfit, you can really see that the jacket it's like a sort of like a cross between a bomber jacket and a barn jacket. In a way, it's like the least formal aspect of the outfit. So that's so interesting, right? The layer, the piece of outerwear, the fall layer is messing with the formality level of the outfit overall. It's in contrast with the formality level of the outfit overall. In the other image, we have the opposite thing going on. We have sneakers, we have sweats, we have a baseball cap, we have an orange juice, and we have a bag that clearly looks like it is a grocery bag. So this looks like a farmer's market day, a grocery shopping day. And what you would expect to see for outerwear on this person is a windbreaker or a fleece. You know what I mean? Like a North Face fleece, not to call you out, but a North Face fleece, something like that. Or even a barn jacket, like a track jacket or something. Patagonia, you know what I mean? But instead we have this beautiful formal overcoat. And that doesn't just make it fashion because the overcoat is more fashion. It makes everything fashion. It makes the hat fashion. It makes the sneakers fashion. It makes the yellow bag, which was already kind of fashion, even more fashion. It makes this outfit worthy of being in this video, ending up on Pinterest or whatever. And it's because of this choice to mix formality levels with the outerwear, but in the opposite direction of a more formal coat on an informal Sunday or an informal coat on a pretty formal work day. So interesting, so compelling. And that is both what I like about these images and what we can easily take away from them. Okay, I just have one more to talk about. Maybe the least interesting, at least to me at this point, because I've had this image, I've been like saving this image on Pinterest for the better part of my life, it feels like. But I always go back to it. And it's because I really love the look of an oversized sweater over a silk slip skirt. That's something that we've been seeing year after year. We've been seeing a lot of slip skirts and dresses over the past several years, and we've been seeing them more in kind of in one way in the summer, but then when we get into fall, layered underneath sweaters. I really love that look, but for a long time it felt kind of inaccessible to me, like wearing a silk slip skirt was too formal for every day. It was aspirational for me. I wanted to wear that and I just couldn't quite figure out how to get there. And this image really helped me get there. And last winter, I started actually wearing sweaters over slip dresses and slip skirts and really loving doing it. One of the reasons it helped me is because it's the boots. right? The boots, these chunky boots change everything about the way this outfit would look. If she was wearing, I don't know, like kitten heels, that's kind of what you just said, little heels or high heels or something, this outfit would totally work for that occasion, but it would be a totally different occasion. And these chunky boots, these like lug-soled Chelsea boots, make it make sense for day. They make it make sense for my life rather than a more glamorous life, you know? I just always end up going back to this. As a reminder, I get that's what I like about it. The thing I like about it is I look at this and I'm like, oh, I could wear that. There's a lot of the images that I see of people wearing skirts like this. I'm like, oh, that looks so amazing. But if I put that on, I would feel kind of stuffy and formal. So that's what I like about this. The takeaway is definitely about footwear. And there is something about mixing formality levels as well, like wearing a chunkier boot, a lug-soled boot with something that feels more formal. It doesn't have to be a silk slip skirt, but could be one of the maxi skirts underneath chunky sweaters that we were looking at earlier in the video. I feel like when we were going into fall last fall, I was intimidated by silk slip skirts. Quince makes a really good one, and I have a couple of them. There's actually one in this color, this exact color. This actually might even be that skirt. So I have a couple of them, and I was so intimidated going into last fall. I was like, how am I going to wear these? And this fall, I'm so excited. Like I kind of just put this image in here because I was like, I can't wait to style my silk slip skirts. I can't wait to style them with sweaters because I think it's easier for me to wear them with sweaters. It makes more sense for casual, like daytime outfits. So I just feel like they're going to be even more in rotation as we move into the fall. And this image is whatever unlocked that for me. Okay, I am totally out of steam. I've got to stop. That's all. That's it. That's all I have for you. Gosh, I should have picked like half the number of images. This was so fun though, and I could totally do this again. I could do it again tomorrow. I have so many images that I love. I have so much to say about them. I'm so excited for fall, and I hope that you are too. Thank you for being here and spending this time with me. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.